Hi, everybody. This is day 1295. I hope I have that right. We know that Richard has been missing since July 2020. And we know that he was whistleblowing before the August 3rd, 2019 Walmart mass shooting. So that would mean, the first half of 2019, maybe right when he got there in 2018. He was deployed at that time, but you can still put complaints in. And he was telling us when he was in Qatar that it was really bad. That's when everything changed. And he says, no way, I don't want to go green to gold. I'm not going to even apply for that. I am not going to, I don't even want to become an NCO. I just want to get out. It is so bad. So, also, we suspect that he absolutely had a run in with some of those perpetrators of the crimes that were going on. And, you know, eh, and that explains why, because, we have insiders now that are giving us information, especially since you have days like this in the media. Let me go to Facebook and see if I'm on. Yep. So today I almost watched the whole thing. I have a little bit more to go, but today was the interview with Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin. And that was really, really something that we wanted to watch because that's what true journalism is. We have heard and seen and had all these interviews with the Ukrainian president, but not with Vladimir Putin. And it's very interesting for our family because my mom and dad worked for the American Embassy in Moscow, Russia, when it was still communist. They were there during that time. That's when they first arrived, when it was still communist. They were there 9 years, and they saw the whole Iron Curtain come down, the whole change with Yeltsin, the attack on the White House. My dad uh, opened up, was part of it, was part of managing Star Hardware there in Moscow, because when it was communist, you couldn't get paint, you couldn't get uh, simple things from a hardware store. They didn't have any. And Star Hardware, I believe, my dad told me this, and you can correct me, but it was the first hardware store to open up in Moscow, Russia, when the Iron Curtain came down. So, uh, you know, that was and a lot of stories that were told to us. Of course, Rob and I were newlyweds at that time, having young children. We never were able to go and visit my parents over there with children. My parents said, "Don't come over here with children." My mother worked in the adoption office there in the American Embassy. So that was, very helpful when we wanted to adopt the boys. Her experience um, and of course my dad was the all-out maintenance, whatever anyone wanted, whatever, was broken that needed to be fixed, setting up for VIP events and things like that. That's what his job was there. At the embassy in Russia, he got to meet many American politicians. One of them that he really liked was Sonny Bono. He was so sad when Sonny Bono was killed or died with the skiing accident. To watch, and also living in Europe for most of my life, you know, we've been living overseas and traveling around that area. And so I think every American should travel, uh, take some time out in their life and travel maybe for a year. I know that Australians uh, do that quite often when they finish school. They just take a year out and they travel the world and then they go back and I know they do that in Ireland too. They travel for a whole year, and then they go back and get a job and work. Um, I think that's a really great idea because you have a different understanding of the world and history. You want to know history more. Uh, and so this, um, all these attacks on Tucker Carlson in order to go to Russia to speak to Vladimir Putin is just shocking, and it just uh, shows uh, that Americans aren't some Americans aren't willing to be so inclusive and listen to what's going on in different countries. I remember the time in Poland with adopting Robert and Richard. That area, Richard and Robert were both born in Gliwice, Poland. Um, we were there, uh, that area. I would take them to the park. We went up to Kubalonka, which is up in the mountains. We stayed there for a month. And I would take them to the nearest city town, very interesting, Wisła, on the bus. And I would talk to people. How could I talk to people there? I didn't speak Polish, but I do speak German. And the Gliwice area, the older people all speak German because the border had gone back and forth so much, and they consider themselves German, even though they're in modern day Poland. This is kind of like the Ukraine situation. The I thought it was fascinating listening to Vladimir Putin talk today or a couple days ago to Tucker, um, about the part of Ukraine that the signs are in Russian and Hungarian, right? Russian and Hungarian. They're not even in Ukrainian, right? And we were very fortunate to live in the Heidelberg area of Germany, where there was a little private Christian school that we um, were fortunate to attend for our children. The girls attended, and I even taught in the school. I taught math, I taught art there, and it was all German. And there was several Germans that had just come over from the east after the Iron Curtain came down, and they were in Kazakhstan, and of course they were repatriated to the United States because they are German, but they were first in Ukraine. And Ukraine uh, was known and is known for the breadbasket of Europe. The soil is very, very fertile in Ukraine, and that's why it's fought over. It's very precious land, and Kazakhstan is not. Kazakhstan is not. And I remember one of the mothers, I taught her children at the school, and we went on a field trip, and I asked her, and I said, you know, because she had 12 children, and I said, oh, Frau Hasselbach, is it difficult for you with 12 children, you know? And she said to me, and I'll never forget it, she said, in Kazakhstan, it was very difficult, but in Germany, no problem. No problem. And I was like, wow. And I'll never be the same. So, never was the same after she said that to me. Because you realize, and she went on to tell me that the ground in Kazakhstan was so hard. You couldn't plant anything. It was so hard to have a garden. It's just difficult living because of the weather, the coldness, everything. But they were originally in Ukraine, and Stalin um, put them all on trains, killed the men, and shipped them to Kazakhstan. So, and for why? As a church, they were persecuted as a church under Stalin. So this is, right from the horse's mouth. This is from, the families. And we were given the opportunity to hear the stories, to go over to the eastern area of Germany and see it get rebuilt, hear the stories of, oh, wow, I get yogurt in containers. Before we would hear the yogurt truck come, and we were like, oh my gosh, we've been waiting 2 weeks for the yogurt truck or the sour cream truck or whatever. And, I don't have my containers with me, so I'll just get any kind of piece of paper or cloth or clothing or whatever, a hat, and put the yogurt in it. Um, to hear stories like that, uh, and this is, of course, in the 90s, it just and being an American and being so privileged to be an American, to not have to have had to struggle like these people had to struggle and get persecuted like they were being persecuted, and to go and see Dresden, the Frauenkirche, to be rebuilt, to go around the city, to see that they couldn't even have a hardware store, right? They couldn't even go and buy a bucket of paint if they wanted to improve their house or whatever that wasn't available. And many things, many things. Um, it was, it was just a, a really good appreciation for being an American, and um, just life and how politics works, and not believing everything you see in the newspaper, of course, which we have had to deal with in Richard's case. And what does this have to do with Richard? Well, because, he was born in Glavica, and he was 5 years old. He was 5.5 years old. Robert was almost 8 years old when we adopted him. They didn't speak any English, they spoke Polish. And, you know, all the visiting, all the years subsequent of that to try to help them keep their European culture. Um, yeah, to be proud of where who they are, who they are, and to appreciate who they are, and who they are as our sons, right? The Halliday boys. Um, yeah, that was, a lot of, we learned a lot just by trying to teach them those values and to make them um, proud of who they are, and, never ever to look back at their childhood, even the hard times of it, and feel sorry for themselves or feel unworthy or feel less of a person. And I think this is where Richard really had the energy and the foundation to stand up against these pedophiles, to stand up against these extorters and thieves, these thieves that um, do human trafficking and weapons smuggling, because even Oregon. This is the other thing that's coming into the picture, and with collecting morsel by morsel, uh, more of the puzzle pieces. You can see that it's even the organ trafficking. Where are all these 85,000 plus another, I don't even have the new number, which is thousands and thousands of unaccounted for minors, from 17 years old. What are they doing with these 17-year-olds and these 16-year-olds, right? And Richard, being 5 and a half, not even speaking any English, uh, you know, growing up in Europe, growing up, uh, learning to be proud of even the hardships that he had because of the privilege he now has as American. And I think that's why he wanted to join the military, um, because it was a trust in America, a trust in the the army, thinking, okay, it gave my grandfather a good life, it gave my dad a good life, to serve the country. Let me serve the country. Let me just get some training from the army, because that came from a place of trust. And being, he didn't go and join the Polish military or the Irish military. He joined the American military, the army. And so he absolutely thought that he was going to get mentoring. He was so excited, and he absolutely went in with 100%, 100% of a good attitude, because he was the distinguished um, honor graduate for his cycle in basic training. And we have a letter that we put out there that really debunks their narrative, the narrative of Richard. These very nasty people that have so much to lose. And when I say they have a lot to lose, is because they're benefiting, either on the real estate or the monies made from the human trafficking, the human organ trafficking, the weapon smuggling, the even the ammunition smuggling, and in so many ways, the narcotics trafficking, the prostitution, the the pornography um, scene, the strip joint scene, the Dreams Cafe, the Dreams Cabaret, Dreams, sorry, cafes out there. This is Dreams Cabaret, where they are up to no good, and people have tried to make a living with them. And so if you hear anything about Richard, just read that letter that he wrote from basic training to his grandparents. How many soldiers write letters to their grandparents when they're at basic training? Okay? How many? And he did. And it is there. And it is beautiful. It is such a beautiful letter. And he's so excited. And he has so much esprit de corps in that letter. And, they block it on so many times. They've blocked that or shadow banned it. because it gets very little views, and that tells me that it is shadow banned and blocked. And I probably should just even read it. I think it's really important. Let me see if I can bring it up. Um, because to see his personality is so important. Let me see if I can find it here. And it does get shadow banned. Let me see. Here it is. I got it right away. Okay, so it says, Dear Ominopi, and he's writing in cursive, right? He's writing in cursive. Yes. Dear Ominopi, how are the both of you doing? Basic training has been one stressful experience, but at the same time, it's been a fun one. Yesterday, we phased over to our next phase, blue phase, where we were supported to get our oh, we were supposed to get our phones. This is pretty small writing because I'm on the computer. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Okay. Um, we were supposed to get our phones for a certain amount of minutes, but we got smoked instead. We graduate on the 6th of July. Family Day is the 5th. So this was written, he miswrote here. He said 17 July, but it was really June, 17 June. Um, I can't wait. Basic has been fun too. Yes, um, it does have its ups. My favorite part has been RM. I don't know what that means. And all the, Rob would tell me, um, and all the combat and obstacle courses. I qualified as a sharpshooter just 2 hits away from expert. Tomorrow, we have our third and final PT test. I'm aiming at 300, and I think I have a good chance at moving it out. Well, enough about me. And then he has some, see if I can read. I've got to get close. Um, Something about Mexico. Oh, yeah. Hope you're having a good time in Mexico for the wedding. Our niece got married in Mexico. I hope you have a safe trip. They were so excited about going. And, so here the Army was getting just my beautiful son. They were getting my beautiful son. Absolutely. And, trying to get, well, he had a good chance of moving it out with the 300 and um, for the PT score. And, you know, it was a beautiful letter. Makes me cry. So, what am I trying to say here is that, Richard's not the only one like that. There's soldiers coming in. I know Asia Graham, she was so excited. I saw a video of her when she enlisted, was taking her oath. She was so excited. Her mother told me she was so excited. And she ended up being raped. She ended up being harassed. She ended up being retaliated against. And she wound up being found dead in the barracks in October of 2020. We were there when that horrible announcement was made. And what's in the news. The news is saying that soldiers, that so many of our young people are dying of fentanyl laced Percocet. It's coming out over in droves. Okay? That is, it should not be on our base. It is. Asia Graham was found dead in her barracks room. Okay? And it was so dangerous during the whole COVID thing because a lot of people didn't want to go to the hospital, right? Um, so the generals, the leadership should have been extra vigilant during COVID. Can you believe it? They were so worried about the insane stuff that they weren't worried about the well being, the quality of life of their soldiers. And Asia Graham, well, let's go back for that year. So you have Glendon Oakley Jr. being found dead in his Fort Bliss barracks. You have, you have Richard being forced. We know that he's, y'all, we have, so we've been doing this. Um, I was thinking about the live stream, but we've been doing this behind the scenes. So many letters, open records, irregularities, complaints, notices that we're going to sue. So many things behind the scenes. And I'm telling you, all of that put together, they did something so that they have to cover it up. It's so they can't even give us his remains because what they did to him was so horrible. You see? Every irregularity, every hard evidence, every the 700-page investigation is so selective, missing. It is also a weapon. They've weaponized it. Just the fact that we know that they've weaponized it and that it's so selective on what it covers, and it shows the CID in the worst light, and the Inspector General of the Army, Donna Martin, who was there, part of the task force, that didn't even have an op ord and not even in uniform. She needs, and having quality of life for our soldiers. She needs to be arrested, and there's many other generals that need to be arrested. And the CID, their dereliction, their corruption